right, welcome to episode 7 of the Frisky Risky podcast, where we do go through all sports, NFL, NBA, and a lot of betting. It's what we love. Well, Will, I don't know if you saw the news lately, but John Tay Porter just got a lifetime ban for doing just that, betting, fixing games, it sounds like, in the NBA. And I don't really know why these guys keep doing this, man. We had Calvin Ridley, we had, obviously Otani and his interpreter, and now Porter, man. It seems like it's an epidemic at this point.
Yeah, it's spreading like wildfire. It's incredible. The fact that he was fixing games in and of itself is incredible. By one, just betting on games himself, mainly when he was back on his two-way contract back on the G League team for Toronto. He was betting on a lot of NBA games through a friend's account or whatever, trying to be sneaky, as well as faking illnesses to manipulate props, multiple different ways. He really sneak and slithered his way through trying to make some quick money, and he did, making about $22,000 in profit after betting a total of almost $55,000. So it's not like he was, cleaning out Vegas, but he did make some money, and it is, yeah, like you said, it's turning into a bit of a problem, and it's at least good to see that Adam Silver kind of gave him the guillotine and gave him this lifetime ban. It's what had to be done.
Dude, $22,000 for what those guys make at the minimum is not, like, it is not worth getting a lifetime ban from that and smearing your name all over the place.
That and I mean, his older brother's Michael Porter Jr. of the Denver Nuggets. Got him on my shirt right here. But he wasn't like MPJ starter in the NBA making good money, but at the end of the day, he was a young player. He was on a two-way deal. He was showing good signs of kind of tracking in the right direction and in his development, and now he's just thrown it all away for $22,000 about. So, it's just remarkable to see the stupidity and just the lack of gumption in some of these players. And I hope that, these young players and maybe veteran players, whoever's doing it in the league is, they see that Adam Silver in the association is nothing to mess with. And, hopefully this will set the standard. And, God forbid we find out at the end of the playoffs here that someone else was fixing games or whatever. I don't think that'll happen, but at this point, you never know. And it was remarkable to see this morning that he did send out that letter, and yeah, he's done. So,
do you think they'll check his brother out?
No, I mean, Michael is streaky, but I think that's more head stuff than anything. I mean, God, he did have a very poor postseason last year, but that was kind of his first time on the big stage. So,
yeah, it's probably just that, right? It probably had nothing to do with his brother being like, "Hey, man, maybe."
God, I hope not. I hope not. One terrible thing on a side note is, he has two younger brothers, Michael Porter Jr. Obviously, John Tay is now out of the league, and his other brother, this has nothing to do with betting related, but made a terrible decision and drank and drove and had a hit and run and is now in prison. So, because he killed someone. So it's like, the Porter family is not looking too strong right now, but let's teach their own. But yeah, it's a bummer to see that a young player made a stupid mistake, but you play stupid games and you win stupid prizes. So
that's true. I don't know. They got to do something. I mean, the hit and run stuff too. I mean, Rashee Rice already after what's his name, Ruggs, did it. It's like gambling and driving 120 miles an hour seem to be the two things that these athletes like to do right now, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, we Uber home after drinking. Mm-hmm. Like, just how hard is that? They've made it so easy now. It's just crazy.
I've been wondering about that for a long time. Carmelo Anthony, when he was on the Nuggets, got in trouble driving too fast in downtown Denver, and a bunch of other Broncos players. And it's just like, I get
Brandon Spikes did it when he was on the Pats.
Yeah, it's just like, I get it. You have all this money and you get these nice cars, and I get it. But at the same time, like, you're still, whether the athletes want to be or not, they're an example, and they're setting a terrible example by doing this. So, And we've seen it also in college, in Iowa State and a bunch of other universities. These kids were getting caught for gambling last year, and it's interesting to see. And we were talking a little bit about it before we got on, but just how it's obviously a lot easier to place a bet. You can do it right from your phone in most states. I know you can in Colorado. Rarely anymore do these guys have to call bookies. Back in the day, it was just such a process, So not that I was
Yeah.
betting back when I was like 7, but you know what I mean. Like it's much more accessible, and I think even though the NFL and all these major leagues are making a lot of money with these partnerships through FanDuel and DraftKings and whoever, they're also seeing a lot of pretty immediate repercussions of allowing betting to get into this space. So
Yeah.
yeah, there'd be some interesting waters to navigate for Adam Silver, Goodell, the rest of the commissioners, because we'll see what I mean. Even with Yasiel Puig in the MLB, he got caught betting thousands of
Oh
dollars. He
yeah.
placed, and I think he placed something an absurd number of like 10,000 bets in the span of a month or something like. Just it's becoming a problem, and we'll see what continues to happen, I guess, and what people decide to do. But this is obviously the first major kind of milestone, and yeah, we'll see if it sets the example for the rest of major sports, as it hopefully will.
Well, what they're going to have to do is they're really going to have to look into Jonte Porter's interpreter, because it was probably him that was placing the bets,
What
for
is?
sure.
I
So
didn't
you're going
know.
to have to check
He
that.
doesn't speak English. What does he speak?
No, just
I'm
kidding.
just
That's what
kidding.
Otai. I was,
No, I know. I know.
I was like, what the hell?
You're like, whoa! I had no idea. I thought he was American, but hey, whatever.
Oh man. Well, speaking of the NBA, dude, let's jump in. We got obviously some big games just happened in the play-in tournament. Warriors eliminated. Lakers beat the Pelicans now, what, twice in a matter of 3 days,
Mhm.
to secure their playoff spot. So the play-in tournament has begun. It continues tonight.
Mhm.
I know the Hawks play, Bulls play. So we got some good games coming up still.
Oh yeah.
Kind of give us your thoughts on what you saw and what you expect here.
Last night, it was an interesting one between the Kings and the Pelicans. Obviously, Zion Williamson had a great game. He had 40, and then ended up
You
getting hurt.
Kings,
And
Kings, Warriors, Kings, Warriors.
excuse me, Kings Warriors, and yeah, Pelicans Lakers. Excuse me. We'll start with Lakers Pelicans. That was a great game. LeBron showed out as always. AD looked good. Lakers obviously showed why they want to be in the playoffs, and they held on long enough to beat the Pelicans, even though, like I said right before, I said the wrong matchup, that Zion had 40, and he is now actually not going to play tomorrow night
Hamstring.
against the Kings, which is crazy. The Kings are, where did I have that? The Kings are not, because of that, tomorrow night they're minus 124. I think they're a 2-point favorite. I would take the Kings on the money line. We'll have that in the newsletter later. I'll have all my picks for tomorrow's games in the newsletter tonight, so make sure you just subscribe to that so you can get those. But Kings are favorites now. That makes sense to me, even though they're in New Orleans. Zion obviously is their motor, and with Brandon Ingram getting benched early last night because he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a jump shot is not a good sign for the Pelicans. So I would not be surprised to see New Orleans have an early trip to Cancun this summer. Um,
That's that
yeah,
hamstring too. Even if the Pelicans can make it through, I mean, a hamstring is not something you just come
no,
right back from. Not only do you not just come right back from it, but even when you do come back from it, there's obviously, you're down in certain performance levels. So that's going to be something that even if they can somehow muster a win, that they're going to be dealing with their next game too. And I agree with you. I don't think they'll probably have to worry about it too much, but
yeah.
something to think about going forward.
Well, and just like what you just said about his hamstring and his mobility, I mean, that's what Zion Williamson is he's a mobile player. He's explosive. He gets to the rack. He's not a low pace type player. He's up tempo all the time. And if that hamstring is 100%, I mean, that's going to really limit his game. And yeah, I mean, they're only plus 106, which is crazy. The Pelicans right now, I think they should be a little higher purely because of that. I think their odds are that way purely because it's in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And also, Jose Alvarado got a little banged up last night. He was rolling his ankles every other play, it seemed like, and he had a great game for them last night. But he's one of their best, if not best, defenders and kind of do it all utility type guy. So the Pelicans are they're in a tough spot. And the Kings looked good last night, man. Keegan Murray showed up. He had 40. He had 8 threes. I mean, Domantas Sabonis again is looking like the young Joker. He's doing all type center. I don't think the Kings will go much farther from that once they do probably win tomorrow night, just because they're banged up as well, and they're just also a young roster. And they're going to have to go into Oklahoma City, who's been a hot team all year. But yeah, I'd take the Kings tomorrow night, but we'll see, man. I mean, it's I like this play-in tournament because no matter what, it kind of gives any team a shot. And moving into the game tonight, the first game of the night, we got the Heat, the 8 seed, playing on the road, going to Philly to play Joel Embiid and the Sixers. And the Sixers are a 6-point favorite. The Heat are banged up. They don't have Terry Rozier tonight playing point guard. That's going to be tough for them. He's been a pretty good option for them all year offensively. So it's going to be a big night for Jimmy Butler. And this is where everybody says Jimmy Butler loves to come to play in terms of, they call him playoff Jimmy. And this is where the Heat culture really likes
Jimmy Buckets, dude. Jimmy Buckets.
So, yeah, dude. No, he's a great player, and he loves the playoffs. So Jimmy Butler's going to have a big game tonight if they're going to want to win. And it's also going to come from the Heat's supporting cast. I mean, they got a young rookie, Jaime Jaquez, who we saw these past 3 years in March Madness put on a crazy run with UCLA as an 11 seed in a first 4 team. And now he's had a great rookie season, but he's kind of petered off near the back half of the regular season. So he's got to find his spark again if they're going to have any chance. And Bam Adebayo's got to win the paint game against the reigning MVP in Joel Embiid. Granted, Joel Embiid is banged up. He came off that injury in his knee. He's played limited minutes since coming back right before the start of the playoffs. But yeah, Adebayo's got to at least get 20 and 10 if they're going to have a chance. Otherwise, I think Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid are going to have a field day in Philly. So,
yeah, I wonder if with Embiid's knee, if they've been kind of giving him those limited minutes so that he'd be ready a little bit more for the playoffs. Maybe he can get some more time, get some more minutes in now that it means a little bit more. You kind of want to work those guys up into that kind of playing shape. You don't want to just throw them right back into competition. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs. I'm pretty excited to see that actually more than anything. As you know, I'm an injury guy, so
yeah,
I get more excited to see how guys come back from those types of things because everyone's different. So that'll be hopefully fun to watch. Hopefully he's throwing it down. So we'll see.
Yeah, and he's I have him in a pick later that I'll give you later in one of the riskier picks, but it's his point total and it's aggressively high. I'll give you a little hint to the listeners right now. It's aggressively high, and I'm interested to see why Vegas is giving him that many points, and we'll get to it, but we'll see. It is in Philly. I mean, Tyrese Maxey's been carrying that team since he got hurt, and he looks great. So it's gonna be a battle for the Heat for sure. It's gonna be a battle, but that's what they've done. They made it to the finals last year. That's what they do. So at the end of the night,
Yep.
if I say Sixers spread and the Heat win by 10, I'm not going to be shocked, but I'm going to be a little surprised for sure. So,
Yeah.
And then moving into the next game, we got the 10 seed Atlanta Hawks, the team that's kind of just been the bottom of the barrel for the East in terms of teams that will still have a chance to make the playoffs. Visiting the 9 seed Chicago Bulls in the late game tonight. The Bulls won the regular season series out of 3 games. They won 2 of them. The big thing with the Hawks, though, is they don't have these 2 big men, Jalen Johnson and I might butcher this a little bit, but Onyeka Onkwu. Anyway, big dudes in the paint. The reason why they're important is because the Bulls have a stud center in Nikola Vucevic. He's a monster inside. His rebound prop is set at 11.5 because he averages close to that. And these last couple of weeks, I've been putting him on the social picks on his rebounds, and he's just been smoking them. So I'm not surprised that that's where his line is. But that's going to be the big story tonight, as well as how the Bulls are going to handle the backcourt duo of Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. It's really with them, it's a pick your poison. You let Trae Young get hot behind the arc, he'll torch you all night. He's like poor man Steph Curry when he gets that stroke going. And DeJounte
Poor
Murray's
man
kind of a
Steph
neutral
Curry.
point guard.
Nice. I hope he hears that. That's what he wants to hear.
I hope he does too. I mean, he hasn't done anything else, so I don't know why else you'd compare him to anybody else. I mean, you could call him, the hairless frickin' Ray Allen, maybe, or more hair since Ray Allen was bald. But I mean, dude's I think my age or maybe a year older, and it's his hairline is terrible. But that is besides the point. With these two guys, he can hit from beyond the arc, and Dejounte Murray can slash his way to hell all the way all night to the rim. Um, it, they're gonna have to stop those two, but those two are probably gonna have a big night. And I just it's sneaky, but I like the Hawks here tonight. Take them on the money line plus 130. I think the Bulls are a little too beat up, and they just don't seem to have the wherewithal to kind of win this game. And even if they did have any fighting chance in the playoffs, it seems like their roster is a little disjointed, and their head coach Billy
Dude,
Donovan's
Bulls
kind of been waiting for this season to be over so that he can kind of maybe explore other avenues, maybe go back to college. Who knows? But yeah, I
Bulls
like the
got
I like
a
the
51.2 banged up score right now. It's out of the 30 teams, which I know not all of them are even in anymore, but out of all the teams, they are literally third to last right now
the Bulls.
when it comes to injury. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's all I need to hear. Yeah, I mean, both teams are pretty banged up, but that is a number that you need to know, and that is why I'm taking the Hawks on the money line. Get the value plus 130, double your money plus some, and yeah, I think they'll come into Chicago tonight and give them a little bit of a run for their money and give them a good ass beating for sure. In all honesty, so um, from then on, I don't know how much the Hawks can do after that. I think this will be kind of their one run of glory. But in terms of a betting perspective tonight, I'd take the Hawks for sure.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Willie P's big night tonight. Well, Will, what else do you have for us when it comes to some predictions and odds, some stuff to make a little more cash, dude? I think that's what everyone wants to know, right? That's why
Yeah,
that's
I
why they're here.
mean, yeah, I will like making money. I've never met anybody that doesn't, and this is kind of what I've been keeping my eye on. Now that we have some pretty solidified matchups in terms of the 4 and the 5 and the 3 and the 6 seeds in the West and the East. Just starting off in the East, we got the Magic, on the road. They're a 5 seed playing the Cavs. The Cavs are minus 198 to win the series, and the Magic are plus 165. The Magic, I don't know if we'll win that series, but what you need to keep your eye on is what those spreads are for each one of those games. I don't predict them to be any higher than 6.5 most games. Granted, at least the first game for sure. We'll see what happens, and maybe there's some blowouts that will change. But the reason why I'm talking about spreads with the Magic is they're the best team against the spread all year. They were the people's America's team. They covered when you didn't think they would, and they're incredible. So I don't think the Magic will win the series per se. They're a young team. This is their first time in the playoffs. Paulo Banchero, their stud down low, has looked phenomenal. He should be an NBA all-second team probably. But they just experience is a big thing in the playoffs, and I think it's going to show with the Magic pretty quickly. I don't think they'll get swept. Maybe it'll go to 6, but I do like them to cover games and keep it close. So if you want to get really sweaty and try and really make some cash, I don't hate Magic to win the series at plus 165, but I would be a little weary of it for sure. And the Cavs are dang near minus 200. They're minus 198. So that shows you that Vegas, with their roster and Donovan Mitchell and all those guys over there in Cleveland, they have a little more experience, and Darius Garland. And so it makes sense in terms of, if you look at it from Vegas' standpoint, why they like the Cavs, and I believe it. But I would keep an eye on the Magic and what those spreads are like in each of those games, because I'd like to at least take a couple of them, probably depending on what they are at Magic covering for sure.
I'm probably with you on the Cavs winning, but the Magic, when it comes to injury, are actually the number one healthiest team in the banged up scores. So when you talk about covering, and how they've done all year, they've been at the top of our banged up score for a long time here, and so that's something else. If you're a data person and you just like to have as much data as possible, they are one of the healthiest teams in the NBA right now. So.
And and obviously health helps cover the spread. Best team
Dude,
against the
health
spread,
matters,
healthiest
man.
team in the league. I mean, health matters. We preach it every week, it seems like, and people don't still seem to listen. So we're giving you the tools. Just take them and dig a hole with them, anything. Put up a fence, something. Next one, this is an interesting series. The 6 and the 3, we got Pacers on the road at the Bucks. Giannis is, we don't know. We at least it doesn't seem like the Bucks know. They're kind of still on the fence. They're still making a
They're gearing
decision.
up to play without him, from what
Yeah,
I
and it
read.
sounds like they're getting ready to go without him, which is pretty scary if I'm in Milwaukee. Um, Given that right now for them to win the series, it's minus 118. It's pretty much even, and the Pacers are plus 100. Pacers have Tyrese Halliburton, who's been one of the best point guards all year. Dude's averaging like 13 assists a game or something. He's just a walking assist. He looks like Magic Johnson, but with lighter skin, and it's incredible. But this one, I'm gonna kind of put on the back burner for right now until I get a little more info. Hopefully, we can. If Giannis sits out this whole series, I have no problem taking the Pacers at plus 100 to win that series. I think it could go either way. But the big X factor that I was thinking about earlier about this is they don't have Giannis, but who do they still have that they got in the offseason? Oh, that's right, Damian Lillard. And what does that dude do? He gets buckets. And if you want, and if it's going to come down to Halliburton and Lillard, I'm going to take Lillard, unfortunately. Not unfortunately. Unfortunately for Halliburton, because purely he's been around longer. He's been in the Western Conference Finals. He's been to the playoffs. And I think he's kind of – I don't know if he necessarily wants the Bucks to be his team, but if Giannis doesn't play in this first playoff series or at least misses a couple games, this is his team, and he's got to show why. So, and I think he will. So that series is definitely on the back burner for me just because it's so close. But if I had to give an edge, even without Giannis, I still would give it to the Bucks, and obviously Vegas is as well because of Damian Lillard and the veteran presence that they have in that locker room.
Yeah, Vegas isn't bringing in the key factor that when Indiana gets down, they sign Caitlin Clark to a couple day contract, dude.
On the side note, did you see how much she is making on her first contract in the WNBA?
Yeah, like 73K or something.
It's
78,
egregious.
76, something like that, dude.
It's incredible.
It's,
Well, I think it was
it's like a total of 350,000 over 4 years
for
or something.
5 years or something. And of course she's going to make plenty more money from her State Farm deals and all of her other side jobs. But it is incredible that the amount of money.
I think I looked up the most made in the NBA versus the least made, or most made in the WNBA versus the least made in the NBA, and it was something like the most made in the WNBA was like 400,000 or 300,000 over 2 years, maybe, or something like that, or over a certain amount of years, and the NBA was like 1 year, 1.2 million or something. It was like the least made.
It's crazy.
But I mean, it's great what they're doing for the sport now. I mean, I think the WNBA draft this year had the most, blew the record out of the water from the previous years on viewership and stuff. And I think the hardest part obviously is going to be the WNBA keeping that level of interest, right? Like right now they have Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink, Angel Reese, Cardosa, all of these big names, Rakea, but can that translate from college ball where they made the big names to the WNBA? And that's going to be the big thing to think about.
Yeah, and Diana Taurasi had that hot take of, that went viral last week about how she's going to have a hard time, and it's, the classic old head of it's not, college basketball, is much different than the league, which I totally get. But, obviously Caitlin Clark is a one-of-one type player, and it'll be interesting to see. This is kind of the WNBA's kind of debut in terms of, I think the Fever have, it's like, I think they have 6 games that aren't on prime time or something. And it's incredible because that's what they need. They need to showcase. I mean, she's the talk of the town, and it makes sense. So I hope that people tune in. I hope that the Fever don't just stink up the joint. I don't think they will. They also have Aaliyah Boston, and they have great players on that team. They've been obviously not as good as other teams like the Aces, but
just take every bet for the Fever to win for the first 3-4 games, dude. Because the WNBA needs it to happen, so they're just going to make them win. Just keep betting them to win.
Yeah,
rolling it over for the first 3-4 games.
Well, and that's what's going to be fun is because once the NBA is over, the the WNBA is a summer league, so and that'll probably be a lot of our picks. And I'm curious to see kind of what Caitlin Clark's point total props are and all that stuff, and Angel Reese, and it'll be a new fun challenge to try and find some trends and make some people some money in the WNBA, because I tried to bet the women's tournament and did well, and then also did bad, because sometimes you think you know what's going to happen, and then my God, you never know. It's like any sport, but at least with women's basketball,
Yeah.
it seems to be even more unpredictable at times.
Which is funny because it used to be so predictable.
100%, yeah, yeah, and now there's just better players, and it's great to
Like
see,
just
especially
predict
with
UConn and then maybe Baylor
yeah,
once in a
yeah,
while
maybe
back in the
Stanford,
day.
like
Yeah.
Tennessee, yeah, there were like four blue bloods, and now it's obviously South Carolina's the wagon of wagons, but
Yeah.
anyway, but moving back into just some Eastern Conference stuff. I find it interesting that they're listing this as a line a little bit. You can bet out of the four teams that still haven't played tonight in the East for the play-in, you can bet them to make the playoffs. The
You could bet
Heat
who to
and the
make the playoffs?
76ers, you can bet the Hawks, Bulls, Heat, and 76ers to make the playoffs, which is just
Oh,
a
okay.
funny little line you could do. If you really wanted to get extra spicy with the Hawks, if you believe that what I don't, and that they will make it farther than this one game tonight. They're plus 650 to make the playoffs, so great value there. That's I wouldn't suggest it, but if you want to really get a sweat on
Risky.
and maybe capitalize, that's risky as heck. And then the Bulls are plus 490, so obviously they think the Heat and the Sixers are going to move through. The Heat are minus 590, and the 76ers are minus 1800. So I wouldn't even bat an eye at it, because I do believe the Sixers will make the playoffs. I think most people do. But yeah, and then if you wanted to place a little future, have some fun, the Boston Celtics, as everybody thought, they're a heavy favorite to win the East at minus 190. The next closest, which is a crazy spread, is the Bucks at plus 800, and then the Sixers at plus 850. So
Damn.
I don't think your Boston Celtics are going to have much trouble in the East this year. I think they're going to kind of have a cakewalk and make their way to the finals and see if they can
You
finally
can only
snatch
hope.
one.
You can only hope, Will.
I guess. I know you're always like, oh, it's a Boston team. They great every year, and then they blow it. And I'm like, yeah, man, I get it, but they've been best record in the NBA, best record at home. Everybody's like, I don't want to play the Nuggets in a 7-game series. Yeah, well, I don't really want to see Boston on the road for 7 games. That'd be tough, especially with that fan base. They're ruthless.
Well, Denver's got to get through the Lakers first, dude.
Oh, get through the Lakers first. Let's just move into the West then. If you're worried about the Denver Nuggets losing to the Los Angeles Lakers, I applaud you, because that is crazy, and Vegas knows it. If you want to bet Denver to win that series minus 400, you need to put down at least 400 big ones if you want to make $100. So that just shows you I'm not, it's not written in stone. There's some recency bias in terms of I'm a Nuggets fan, as well as we swept them last year in the playoffs. So the Nuggets are obviously not the same team as last year. They're pretty dang close, though. The biggest piece we don't have is Bruce Brown. But my big bet for that series, and these are always really fun, because this is when you get to think you're the man, especially if you predicted right, is series score. And I'm taking the Nuggets in 5 plus 230. I don't think we sweep them again, just because I'm sure LeBron will have one more big hurrah in the playoffs and have a 45 piece and whatever, and Anthony Davis will not be hurt for a full game and actually play basketball. So I like the Lakers to at least win one. I will be shocked if we sweep them 2 years in a row. Granted, we have beaten them 8 games in a row, so you never know. But I do like the Nuggets to win in 5 at plus 230. I think that's a great number. I think maybe LA gets one at home and we come back to Denver for game 5 and just beat the snot out of them. That's kind of my prediction. And then, we got, in terms of the 4 and the 5 seed, we got the Clippers hosting the Mavericks. The Mavericks, funny enough, even though they're the road team, are the favorite to win the series at minus 142, while the Clippers sit at plus 120. The Clippers have been a good team this year. I'm a little surprised that they're a home dog to win this series. Granted, the Mavs have one of the best players in the league, top 5, in Luka Doncic, and another top point guard in Kyrie Irving. And when those two dudes get it going, it's pretty tough to stop. They can easily put up 65 plus points combined in a night. The Clippers obviously have a great kind of 3-piece combo, and Russell Westbrook, or four-piece, I guess. Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. So obviously great talent there. They've been in the league for a long time. They've all gone to the playoffs. They've done, they have experience. So I'd keep your eye on the Clippers, especially just being just home dogs. I like them at plus 120. The Mavericks have went to the Western Conference Finals two or 3 years ago. Granted, that's didn't when they didn't have Kyrie, but it's pretty hard for me to bet against the Clippers at plus money, especially just because if the Mavericks kind of get a cold night or a cold couple of nights from Kyrie or Luca or maybe both of them, it's kind of hard for them to get any other offense kind of going. So that's an interesting series for me for sure. And then the other one, the Timberwolves and the Suns. The Timberwolves are the 3 seed. They've had a great year all year. They're battling with the Nuggets and the Thunder for the number 1 seed in the West. They kind of petered out their last 2 games of the season to kind of shuffle it, and that's why they're now the 3 seed. And they're actually also home dogs against the Suns, and they're sitting at plus 116. I like the Timberwolves. The Suns have been great. They're actually one of the best defensive teams in the league all year, which is kind of surprising given that just how many superstars they have. And I don't really consider Bradley Beal a lockdown defender, but he's been playing great in that system. And the Suns, they got Kevin Durant, who's had a kind of a sneaky, quiet, great year. He should be NBA all NBA first team. And I think the big thing, the reason why Vegas has the Timberwolves at plus odds is that they're just a young team. Anthony Edwards is obviously a budding superstar. The dude's a freak, but they don't have much playoff experience, and their whole roster as a unit doesn't have much chemistry in the playoffs together. Just not any experience. And I keep having to beat a dead horse, but experience is a big thing in the playoffs, and that's again I think why the Timberwolves are kind of seen as the underdog here. So. But I have no problem taking them. And I was looking at it earlier again for betting the series score, and if there was better odds in terms of the Timberwolves winning in 7 than the Suns, the Suns were plus 3 something, and the Timberwolves were plus 290. So that shows you that if the Timberwolves make it a series, they force it to 6-7. That this younger squad and Anthony Edwards, at least Vegas thinks that they're going to kind of maybe take control if the Suns let it get to that point. If the Suns come out and have a good first 2 games, they maybe steal one at home, go back to Phoenix, win both at home. I wouldn't be surprised to see Phoenix going to the next round, but that's a lot of ifs, and we'll see. It's going to be a lot of good, tight matchups in the West. The East is a lot more open, a lot more predictable. I would not go and say everything that I've just done and parlay it all together because it's just that it's not as
That'd be ballsy.
yeah, no, and people love to do that. People love parlays, and so does Vegas. That's why Vegas is as big as it is, So, yeah, and then obviously we're waiting to see who the Thunder will play. I think the Thunder will win their first round, kind of regardless of whoever they play. They play great at home. They love playing at home.
Waiting to see who the Thunder will play, but just take the Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. They're a great young team. I don't think the Thunder though will get much farther. I'm sure plenty of SGA fans and everyone that thinks he should be the MVP would scoff at me for saying that. Even one of my other bosses would not like that. He's a huge Oklahoma City fan. But again, experience is huge. SGA's never been to the playoffs. Neither is any of their roster. I think the youth will bite them in the butt eventually. Maybe they make a surprising run and get to the Western Conference Finals. But again, I just don't. They're a great young team, and Shannon Sharp on First Take this morning said that they're the worst 1 seed in the last 40 years. Of course, I think he was doing that to get some headlines, but the Thunder are solid in the first round. I'd call that a lock, but after that, who knows? And we'll see what happens. But again, they could, maybe they play the Kings and Domantas Sabonis keeps rolling. I mean, I think they swept the Kings all 3 or 4 games this year. So and with the Pelicans, they beat both teams. I think however many games they played, they didn't lose one to them. So that's why I like the Thunder in the first round. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an exciting postseason, and we're going to make some money. I'll tell you that.
We're getting started. We've been dropping some great data, great trends, and great bets. Do you have anything else for the people?
Of course.
Put cash in the pockets, dude. Little
Oh
Frisky
yeah,
Risky,
well,
maybe.
tonight this is what everyone I hope has all been waiting for. I gave you a couple little teasers throughout the episode, but yeah, these are the bets for tonight. What I like, I got four frisky and four risky, so nice little even on both sides. First, to start off with the frisky, the ones we feel pretty good about. They're not, the odds aren't maybe the best, but they're going to make you some money. Not saying they're like minus 200 or anything, but they're not. They're not. We feel good about them, and that's starting off with that. I mentioned it earlier. Nikola Vucevic, he's going over 11.5 boards tonight. He's a monster. He has to if they want to win that game. And I don't think they will, but if he is going to win that game, he's going to have to grab boards. And like we said, the Hawks are a little depleted down low. The only kind of big guy they have down there is Clint Capella, who's not a small dude, but Vucevic has been a force in the paint all year. I love him to get 12 plus. I bet he gets 15. I feel good about him going over an 11.5 rebounds. Next one, mentioned it as well earlier. You were talking about it with his knee, and we don't know how he's going to be, 100%, 80%. Joel Embiid, his points prop is 29.5 points. That's outrageous.
Jeez.
That's glitch in the matrix, something. And if he goes for 40 tonight, I don't know what I'll do. I'll go, who knows? But I'll go run a lap. I don't know. But I'm taking him under 29.5. Again, we talked about it so much earlier. I just don't know how reliable he is right now. I think if the 76ers have a big game, I think it's mainly going to come from Maxey. I don't think it's going to be him shooting his signature step back three when he's up high on the key. I don't think he's going to get a lot of post fades. I don't really think the Sixers want him working too hard that night. Granted, I think he'll maybe get 20. 29.5, 30 points seems very aggressive to me for a guy that's coming off a pretty major knee injury and obviously missed a significant amount of time. So unless they've been withholding information and that thing's 100% to go, I'm going to ride with the injury data and kind of the experts in terms of view of what you like for his production. And I'm going him under 29.5 all day. The next one, Trae Young, I talked about it earlier. Dude can get hot from three. I don't know why his three prop is set at 2.5. I think he'll hit that in the first half, especially if the Hawks have any chance of trying to get out into a lead. He's going to have to hit threes early and somewhat often for them to have a good night. 2.5 is an easy line for him to hit. I'm taking that. It's like minus 140. So it's not the most lucrative line, but you're still going to make some money from it. And I'd take it purely because I feel really good about it. And it's definitely dang near, if not in, that lock category for sure. And then the last frisky kind of pick, another one that I feel really good about, Tyrese Maxey over 2.5 threes. The dude's been crushing that line all year. He's had to because Embiid has been out for so long, and he has definitely kept the Sixers relevant. And how did he do that? He hit a lot of threes. So I like him to have a big night. Again, everything I just said about Embiid going under his point total applies here. It's going to come from Maxey. He's going to have to hit at least 3 threes for them to win this game, and I don't think it's going to be any problem. In Philly, he loves to pull the trigger on his home court, and I think he's going to cash that pretty easily as well. So take Maxey over 2.5 threes. You won't be sorry. And then moving into our risky, get a little more money on it. We're going to go a little on the defensive side. I haven't given out a lot of defensive props this year, but I'm taking Alex Caruso of the Bulls to get 3+ steals at plus 135. This dude averages over 2 steals a game. He's going to be all NBA defensive first team. He's a monster in the passing lanes. He's got killer instinct of picking passes, picking your pocket. Him to get 3+ steals is a little bit of a reach just because it's kind of a big number in terms of the steal department, but the guy averaging the numbers that he did this year on the defensive end, and also Vegas, for him to have 2+ steals, it was like minus 250. I was like, okay, so you're gambling a little bit, but I also think Vegas is trying to scare you a little bit with that plus 135. So I like Caruso to get 3+ steals tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if he got 5. And if he did, the Bulls might win. But either way, he's going to be a defensive presence and continue to do what he's done all season for them on the defensive side of the ball. My next one, Trae Young under 10.5 assists. He averages 10.8 assists this year. I'm a little worried that he's going to kind of be taking more shots than he is going to be looking to find other players. DeJounte Murray is a big guy that he likes to give the ball to. So if DeJounte Murray has a big night, he could probably potentially hit this over. It's minus 102, so it's not exactly even money, but it's as close as you're going to get. I like him to go under it purely because I think it's going to be Trae Young's night tonight. He's coming off that injury. He's been waiting to come back. He's kind of I think he's getting ready to get into his groove again, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had a big night, 30-plus point game tonight. And because of that, I don't think he's going to be passing the ball a lot. I think he's going to be more of a spot-up shooter and kind of be playing off the ball. So I like him to go under 10.5. Again, his average says he's going to average about that. So it's a pretty that's why it's a little more risky. I don't feel the best about it, but in terms of how I'm scripting this game in my head and the trends and all the data I've seen, I like him to go under that 10.5 tonight. My other risky, and honestly, after talking through with you through the whole show, I don't even think it's that risky anymore. It's Hawks money line, baby. Give Atlanta the dub. I mean, plus 130. I don't. Again, we talked about it so much. The Bulls are banged up. They have DeMar DeRozan, who's probably going to have he needs to have a big game tonight, and I'm sure he will. He's going to be their main guy. But the Hawks, I think, are just poised to win this game. Even though it's on the road, I take them on the money line. I wouldn't even deal with the spread. I think it's like 2.5 or 3. I think the Hawks win by at least 5. So I'd take the Hawks on the pure money line. I'd put the house on it. Not actually, but I'd put some good money on it. I feel good about it. I'm moving that back into the frisky category, actually. So, and the last one, Jimmy Butler over 22.5. He's averaging about 22 points this year. Granted, he's not slowing down, but he definitely has had to burden the load a little bit with injuries to the Heat and like Terry Rozier and now Duncan Robinson has been hurt, but he's actually going to play tonight, so we'll see how he plays. But Jimmy going over 22.5. I think if the Heat are going to have any chance of winning this game, it's going to come through him, and that's where I think it could be a smart play. It's minus 108, so again, it's not plus money, but it's close enough. And Vegas, obviously, I think has the same inkling that I do that if the Heat show up and they play well, it's going to come from Jimmy buckets, living up to his name and getting some buckets. So I like Jimmy Butler to go over 22. 23 points doesn't seem aggressive. Granted, if the Heat come out slow and the Sixers fans are loud and Philly shows up, it could be a long night for him. But either way, he's going to take his shots. He always gets them. He's the engine of that offense and that team. So it's not a matter about shot volume. It's a matter of if he can hit some early and the Heat can kind of hang in that game. So I'd go Jimmy over 22.5 as the last risky play of the day. And yeah, hopefully we can make some money tonight. I'm feeling good.
Dude, there it is. The frisky, risky picks from the legend himself, Willy P. Make sure you get that money down so you can make some cash, put that cash in the pocket. But that's it for the episode, guys. It was a big, Will unloaded a lot of data on you, a lot of trends, a lot of information. So make sure you take that and do what you need to get a little extra beer money or make a ton of money, dude. Go Jonte Porter yourself and throw some money down. So we will see you here next week for more NBA and a bunch of other sports. Probably this was primarily NBA, but we're going to throw in some more next week. So make sure you meet us back here, and we'll keep giving you the best in betting information. See you then.
Don't forget, check the socials, subscribe to the newsletter. Like, it gives you everything you need to know. We preach it and preach it. Just keep checking us. We're putting out content daily, giving you the information. It's the best source you can get.
Head on over to thepredictors.com.